We got James Ham in the building with us here on D-Lo and KC, 1320 Kings Insider. Man, we got a lot to talk about. Because good old JR says business is picking up. But before we go, let's just handle business real quick before we get into the Kings. James, did you say Warriors in 6? Is that what it was?
Victory lap.
He did.
Victory. Warriors in 6. Yep, that was my prediction. And yeah, I gloated about it on the podcast last night. A little bit.
It's a good call. Call. Hell of a call. Yeah.
Ever.
So. One last time. I guess I got to give it to James too.
Congratulations! Oh my God.
Hammer, let's start here because you've been reporting about this the last 2 days or so. Who has and hasn't spoken to the Sacramento Kings? Because the list of hasn't seems a lot longer than the list that has.
This is the strangest draft season I've ever been through. I don't know how else to put it. I'm writing on it right now. I'm almost ready to publish something when I get off here, probably like a half hour after I get off, I'll publish. I've never seen it. I don't understand it. There's got to be some sort of reason behind it. But, you know, I told you guys that, you know, the Kings have locked us out of the building, so we don't have any, like, we're not there. We don't get to see who's coming through and all that stuff. I've heard rumor that Dyson Daniels maybe was supposed to be coming through today, but I still haven't confirmed that at this point. Jeremy Sohan is the only prospect in the top 10 that we know that has come through the building, and he might not even be a top 10 prospect. He might go 12, 13. This is the strangest thing. And it's not to say that the Kings haven't done some work. They interviewed a ton of people at the Combines. They went to a bunch of pro days. I know that they went to Shaedon Sharpe's pro day. I know they went to Jaden Ivey's pro day, AJ Griffin, Benedict Matherin's pro day. They had interviews with guys like Shaedon Sharpe at the and I think a few others at the Combine. But when they kept us at bay and didn't let us in the room, well, the NBA doesn't play that. At the end of the day, we get in the final days leading up to the draft, we get all of the prospects on Zoom calls. And so the top, I think it's 19, have started to roll through. And in the first 2 days, Paolo Banchero says he literally has never spoken to the Kings. Again, Shaedon Sharpe said he hadn't spoken to the Kings. I know for a fact that's not true. Whether he hasn't visited Sacramento and he maybe hasn't spoken to the Kings since the Combine. But I've never seen anything like this. You know, we're watching this awesome video of Sharpe going at it in a 3-on-3 workout in Portland. Portland has the 7th pick in the draft. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't get him in here to do that workout against someone else. So it tells me that there's a master plan here that we have kind of understood to be the case for a while, but it's more real than I think we thought it was, because they haven't had anyone through, and it's a big deal to not have anyone through. People should be fighting to move up to number 4.
Yeah.
And they're not.
Well, one of the things that came out of yesterday was obviously the sound with Adrian Wojnarowski, and what he said. For those, Dame, cue it up real quick, because, you know, people hadn't heard what Woj had to say. He gave some insights to this whole process with the Kings at number 4, and, you know, what may be going on around the league when it comes to the Kings at number 4. And I found it very interesting. I found it very telling as well, James. I thought much like Jonathan Givony the other day. I thought Woj was kind of, you know, doing some work for some people. We got a good to go.
Adrian Wojnarowski before the finals game last night.
Well, several of the players, but in particular, Jaden Ivey. Woj, what can you tell us? Greeny, that number 4 pick that the Sacramento Kings hold is very much in play. There are a lot of teams trying to get deals done with Sacramento so they can move up to select Jaden Ivey. That's teams close to them in the lottery. Detroit, Indiana, who are 5 and 6. The New York Knicks at 11, Washington Wizards at number 10, and even some teams outside of the lottery. Listen, Sacramento's asking price is going to be significant to move in there. I think they see this as essentially a 4-player draft. There's a drop-off after 4. Monty McNair, their GM. You can expect him to be on the phones in this next week as we get closer to Thursday's draft. And if they're going to move that pick, I think they expect they're going to get a lot in return. But Jaden Ivey is certainly a point guard that among several teams in the lottery and out who'd like to get who'd like to get at him. They've already talked to Sacramento. They'll continue to do.
That's Kings fan Adrian Wojnarowski right there. He mentioned twice that he expects the asking price to be very, very high. I don't think he freestyled that.
No, I don't think he did either. And I do believe he mentioned Monty McNair, and he should be on the phone.
I believe he's the first reporter in history to mention Monty McNair. By the way, no mention of Vivek Ranadive there in that report from Adrian Wojnarowski.
Not at all. I mean, that's just like, look, if there are multiple teams, and he's so specific there, multiple teams are trying to get a deal done.
Mm-hmm.
That means that you got people competing. Now, like, what that means, I don't think we know. Like, I think a lot of teams would like Jaden Ivey. I also, yes, so when Megan points out, they called him a point guard.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't think anyone looks at him and says natural point guard. But that's a way to say they already have De'Aaron Fox, and that doesn't work. It's just intriguing because even if this is the case, even if you don't want to draft Ivy and you're going to go out and make some moves, I'm still confused. This league is super small. All of these players could come back around in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And you could, like, getting to know them at a personal level, having them in your building, showing them, like, the beautiful, like, practice facility, all that stuff, the hotel right next door, giving them the 5-star treatment, walking them underneath the hallway that goes underneath the building and pops out in the Sawyer. Like, everything is cool. And I think that there should have been an ability to bring in prospects. And I don't think that every agent in the league is icing the Kings out. I don't believe that to be the case. Maybe, but I don't think so. I don't think there's some grand conspiracy. And I don't know. It's bizarre because this isn't the way it normally goes. And, like, we can talk about normalcy all we want. They were never going to get one of the top 3 guys to come to Sacramento because they all think they're top 3. And you can even say they're never going to get one of the top 4 because most of those guys think that they're going to go in the top 3, and one of them is going to be the dude who loses, like, the game where they keep pulling out a chair.
The musical chairs.
Yeah, musical chairs. Yeah. So someone was going to lose, but there's always, even in the last week, usually someone admits defeat and sneaks in quietly for a workout with the team just to say hi and go have dinner and all that stuff. They have talked to Keegan Murray. That's the one guy who was like, yeah, I've kept tabs with the Kings all the way through. I met up with him a couple of times. I don't know that he's been in Sacramento, but they certainly, they probably have had a meal with the guy and sat down. But you can glean a lot from this. And I know some people say, oh, it's just a workout. No, you have a guy in your building. I think Banchero said he spent like 3 days in OKC. Like, they wined him, they dined him, they took him all over town, they showed him the cool spots to go. That's what you're hoping to do, and it's just different. It is very different. So I think that they have some grand plan, and I think we've known that they've had a grand plan for a while, and this is just kind of the way it's played out. It's intriguing.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree. You bring in any and everybody you can in for a workout, even if it's just, to meet and talk with him, to help out the agent. Be like, oh, look, the number 4 team wanted to meet with me. You guys probably should telling other people, you should look at my client a little better because the number 4 team is actually interested. Little stuff like that, creating relationships with people. With that being said, back to the Woj thing. I looked at that once again as a impromptu infomercial for Monty McNair by Woj and the Kings number 4 pick. And one of the things that I thought, maybe I'm just, being a little naive here, tinfoil-y, I thought Monty was getting the message out. Some of you guys are coming at me with these deals like we're stupid. Okay. That's not the case. I have a handful of teams that want this pick. Make your best deal. Don't try to play us. Don't try to get over on us, because if you're not making a deal, there's 3 or 4 other teams that are ready to make a deal. Make your best deal, period. That's what I got out of that whole thing with Woj.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, if you're he directly mentions the 2 teams behind him. Like that's really where you can get a lot of value, especially you're trying to get them to crank up their price. Like I think initially you're like, hey, we would like Jeremy Grant or we would like Sadiq Bey. Now it's like, hey, it's going to be more than that. If it's Sadiq Bey, it's going to be Sadiq Bey and a future first. If it's
talking big money talk.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, and if it's Jeremy Grant, we need to negotiate a contract now. We need to make sure that he's going to lock up, and we'll be able to get him on a long-term deal. We're not getting to the night of the draft and not knowing if we can get Grant entering the final year of his deal. They're not trading 4 to 5 without a sign and extend with Jeremy Grant. That's just not happening. And if it does, then that's just crazy talk, because you just gave up the ability to draft the guy that you probably should, right. Number 4. So I think
in that situation, do you include the 5?
I was about to say that'd be great.
Jeremy Grant, or are the
Wait, say that again?
In that scenario you're presenting, is it a pick swap at 4 and 5, like the Kings would draft at 5 and have Jeremy Grant, and there's obviously players involved here? Or are the Pistons in the scenario that you're talking about right there? Do you think it's the Pistons at 4 and 5?
Oh, no. The Kings are moving back 1 spot. No, that's what the cost of this is. At a minimum, it's a Jeremy Grant or it's a Sadiq Bey.
That's some John Lynch stuff right there.
It might even be more. It might be again, if it's Sadiq Bey, it might be Sadiq Bey and a future first. Like that's where you're at. You're trying to jump, but it's not just 1 spot. It's now 1 spot that everybody else wants as well. We could talk about Indiana, and you can start saying
Washington.
Yeah, is Malcolm Brogdon enough to move from that pick from number 6 to number 4? Well, maybe not if Jeremy Grant and something else is on the table.
Right.
Maybe not if not to say that Bradley Beal's going to be on the table. I don't know if that would be the case, but Julius Randle. There's some clear, rumors that the Knicks are interested with the 11th pick. We've talked about, they're saying there's teams outside of the lottery that are interested as well. I mean, again, Atlanta would be super interested in moving, but I think Atlanta would be interested in moving to 7 as well, or 6 or 5. And so that's where I've always said, look, make your first move. That's fine. Then make your second move. Because if you're not comfortable where you're at, if you're at number 6 and Keegan Murray's gone and you're looking at Shaedon Sharpe or Mathurin and you're like, okay, but you can move back and pick up a John Collins. Now we're talking about something different, I don't know how you walk out of this draft, when it's all said and done, all the dust settles, how they did, but there's potential for them to walk out with 2 frontline starters. And that's good.
And your pick?
Well, and a pick, but that pick could be later. I've said it, again, if you can go from 4 to 5 and pick up Jeremy Grant, and you can go from 5 to 16 and throw in Harrison Barnes and pick up a John Collins, that's how you win the lottery. That's how you win the draft. That's how you win draft night. And it's because you were given the opportunity to move up to number 4. It gave you the leverage to make multiple pickups, and that's huge. You know, it's absolutely tremendous. Moving from 7 to 4, it probably gave them one extra big bullet in the gun.
Yeah.
Now, maybe none of it works out, and you just sit there and you go, all right, fine, we'll just draft him. Just draft Ivy. He doesn't really, it's not his preferred destination. It's also a player that the Kings know isn't probably going to be a good fit with Fox. You draft him, you figure it out later.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's not bad to have options, and it certainly sounds like the Kings may have options. I want to get to something you guys started to talk about a little bit regarding De'Aaron Fox, but I want to take a different direction with De'Aaron Fox for just a second.
Okay.
Do you think anyone's calling about him?
That's a good question. I mean, they could call. Like, I think there's like a misnomer about how teams like act in this situation. It's not like they fill out like a trade machine and send it over, right? Like, hey, here's a screenshot of a trade machine.
Who says no?
Who says no? That's spectacular. That's not the way the league works. The way the league works is that these guys are all in constant communication with each other. And it may not be just straight up Monty McNair with Daryl Morey, or there are so many ties that bind these guys together. And so Wes could be calling a handful of guys, and Phil Johnson can be calling some guys, and like all these guys in their front office, they could all be listening to different ideas from different people all over the place. Agents are involved. They could be calling agents like, hey, if we did this, how would your client do? What if we did something like this? Like, it's a complicated web of information. And so when you get to a trade deadline or you get to the last year's off season, you've already had cursory conversations with so many teams about your players. Like, if you don't think that it seems strange that the Utah Jazz were so hot after Harrison Barnes, right, at the deadline. Well, why would we think that why wouldn't they be since Danny Ainge is there now instead of Boston, where Boston was so hot on Harrison Barnes for years? So you already have these like pre-ideas of who people like and what kind of things they would be willing to give up to acquire a player. What kind of deals make sense for everybody, so you've had all of these conversations. You get to the draft combine, you're having more. All-Star weekend, you're having more. There's always something that is happening where these guys are communicating and sort of a broad picture. They all have an idea of who could be available, who isn't, and what it would take to get somebody. So I don't think that anyone thinks that the Kings are ready to move off of De'Aaron Fox right now. Maybe they thought so at the deadline, but when the Kings, moved off of Tyrese Halliburton instead, it kind of cemented the fact that Fox was going to be here. And then when you saw Fox and Sabonis together, you're like, man, I don't think there's any way I would break that tandem up yet. You have to give that an opportunity. And I mean, what you're saying, you could just draft Jaden Ivey and trade De'Aaron Fox, but you're not going to get the same value. Because Fox has got a $28 million salary or $30 million salary attached to him next season. And that's going to hurt your value in taking it back and what you can get back in exchange for him.
Right. I want to go down that road a little bit too, and maybe even a little further back, just because I'm curious. I've had conversations during last season and before the Halliburton trade and everything else. Did anybody, to your knowledge, want De'Aaron Fox? Anybody inquire? Was it a situation? People say Indiana just straight up said no. We'd rather have Halliburton. Do you have any intel on what the rest of the league was looking at when they saw De'Aaron Fox?
I don't think his market wasn't what you would hope it would be at the deadline. Like from what I've heard, like it wasn't just like a bustling market, but also like he had way more value to the Kings than he does to another team. if a team like the Knicks wanted De'Aaron Fox, there's no way that like a team like the Knicks wouldn't want De'Aaron Fox. Number one, they don't have a point guard at all, and so Fox would fit perfectly there. Number two, Scott Perry is still there, I believe, and Scott Perry, or he was during this last season. Scott Perry is the guy who was here and helped draft De'Aaron Fox. So there's a lot of complexity. There's no way that there was no market for him. The question is, was the return Domantas Sabonis or better? And I think the answer is no at that time. Now, these things change all the time. I really do think that there's a way that he could actually be a very marketable player right now. And I think that he has every opportunity to grow his value, at least to where it was before and maybe even higher. So, but again, I think as of right now, he has higher value to the Kings than he does any other team. And the number 4 pick has tremendous value, and there's nothing attached to it yet. And so it's still like this brand new shiny Lamborghini sitting on the sales room floor that, you're going to get something for it, and it's going to be gold, whatever it is. And I've said that from the beginning. It's going to be gold. If they're going to move off this pick, they're going to get something very good that makes them a better team. Whether he ends up being a superstar or not, we have no idea. But sort of the whole, one in the hand, two in the bush thing, if you can get something is really good, and you still don't know if Jaden Ivey is going to be like the projected star that he could be, maybe he gets there, maybe he doesn't. We don't know. But, there are really good players that you could get in exchange. And if there's multiple teams bidding on that spot, I'm pretty sure you're going to get what you want from a team.
Is it as simple as more talent makes De'Aaron Fox better? Or let me rephrase that. Let me phrase it in the way Kenny would say it. Is it as simple as adding more talent, regardless of position, helping De'Aaron Fox?
Yeah, you have to help De'Aaron Fox, right? At some point, you do have to get the pieces. And then there's also the other side of it. He has to make people around him better. So we can't just keep saying, well, that didn't work, this didn't work, that didn't work. But I think if we even pull the players out of it, right, and just take away, add the instability of the franchise, look, De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield were a dynamic backcourt under Dave Yeager. They were dynamic, and they were fun, and they won 39 games, and they could have won a few more. And if you would have kept building that team, then we might not be having all these conversations now. But that's not the direction the franchise chose to go. They chose chaos. They chose, to fire Dave Yeager and go a different direction and mix it all up. So I think my point is that, how do we judge De'Aaron Fox and say, oh, well, he didn't make anyone better, when we all talked about it, not this season, but last season, how they walked into the year with 6 players. That's not fair to De'Aaron Fox. So yeah, I want him to be better, and I want him to be more consistent. But I also think that having a consistent coach, having a consistent identity, putting players around him that actually fit his play style. How many years do you not have a stretch 4 for this team? Outside of Nemanja Bjelica? That is a requirement at the NBA level, is that you have a stretch 4. And the Kings now, maybe they have Trey Lyles, who can sort of be a stretch 4. Except for he shoots 32% from 3. So maybe you don't really have it. So again, put the right pieces around him. It's not that difficult. Look around the league. They do it with, they did it with Donovan Mitchell. They put the right pieces all around him.
And that's the thing that I continue to start to ask the question about, at least, is because people talk about the fit, and then people are so quick to say, oh, they haven't won anything with De'Aaron Fox. You don't ever worry about fit with him. I just asked the question, well, at what point do you invest in De'Aaron Fox? Because it doesn't feel like they have done it the entire time he's been here. They haven't had any shooters around him outside of Buddy Hield, which was a shooter-ish type player. It wasn't an actual guy that was out there producing the way you would need to around De'Aaron Fox. I would say the Sabonis situation, probably the first time they actually invested in De'Aaron Fox, and he played the best basketball of his career.
Yeah. No, what it kind of feels like is that you bought a brand new house in a neighborhood and everyone around you, they all got a brand new house. And then you just didn't do anything to maintain your yard the whole time. And so everyone's house looks like a brand new house, and your grass is dead and all your bushes are horrible and your sprinkler system's broke, and you know, you just didn't maintain it. You didn't give the necessary things to maintain what you're doing or to add to it, you know? And that's what it kind of feels like. De'Aaron Fox is still a very, very good NBA player. He still has potential to be a multi-time All-Star. He's 24 years old. He hasn't reached his prime yet. He will soon, but like he's in a position where if you put the right pieces around him now, all of a sudden you could have a player that you're just loving the fact that he's under contract for 4 more years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think anyone should be dreading his contract at this point. Maybe 2 years from now, if it hasn't really worked out, but even then, I still think you'll be able to move off of him.
We'll continue. I want to add to that, and I will. We'll continue to talk about De'Aaron Fox and the importance of this number 4th pick, some different ideas with our 1320 Kings insider, James Ham, here on ESPN 1320.
We're clear. I said, come on, man. Come on now.
Yeah, I'll tell you when the stream's off why that's not nearly as funny to me as it might be.
Oh my God.
I missed everything.
No, it's I'll tell you when the stream's off.
All right. Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah. Mike Brown's press conference should be early next week.
Yeah, I'll bring that up on the air because Kenny and I were guessing probably Tuesday, but
it's on its way. I think we'll have a day where, you know, we kind of do sort of get some questions, but I think at the same time, a lot of the questions might shift to like what's going on, what's going to happen in the coming days, and of course they won't give up anything, but you know, I don't know. Like it doesn't. Well, I guess it could hurt somebody, but I don't think it really hurts you to make a deal early, even at this point, unless you get to the draft and something weird happens where Jaden Ivey goes number 2, and all of a sudden, like the tumble effect, and you gave up a pick that now is something totally different than what it would have been. So I will backtrack. The Kings probably won't trade out, but we will know like pretty soon, like what they have, the parameters.
And it feels like there's no real need to, like I said yesterday, unless you're like ready to say it's Donovan Mitchell. And the Jazz are saying today, Donovan Mitchell will run. Yeah, you just don't worry about the draft. Just say yes to the trade and trade for Donovan Mitchell and worry about that later. But unless it's an all-star, perennial all-star like that, I don't think there's any reason not to just really wait till you're on the clock, see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, if Mitchell becomes available, but I just don't think Mitchell becomes available. Okay. Like I don't.
Not this summer. No. Zachary, I haven't golfed since I went out there, man. I've been busy, man. I'm telling you, man. This all-star experience for baseball. It's a lot of time spent, man. A lot of time spent. I want Iguodala.
Death beam to my head. What? Why would there be a death beam? What are you talking about? The hell? Come on, Max.
J Stahl, we don't do fantasy football, but we do pick'em leagues, and we will have a pick'em league going on.
Ooh, I like pick'em leagues.
Yeah.
I played fantasy for way too long. I don't like doing multiple teams.
You can get in the pick'em league, J Stahl. Yeah, not sad about it. I like Tart. Jawaski Tart going to the Eagles on a 1-year deal. I think the Niners had no interest in him. Like, he could have signed a 1-year deal with the Niners, and I think they offered him nothing. That's just my guess.
Where are y'all seeing this Mike Brown press conferences scheduled? I mean, I haven't gotten an email. I don't think any of us have gotten an email.
No.
I feel like we would, and I don't see it posted anywhere. Can you guys share where you got that from? Because I think a couple of you posted like different days and times. Some of you might just be talking about the neck.
Sorry. Some of them were being sarcastic about Father's Day.
That's pretty funny, though. That's a way to come full circle.
Well, yeah, because like I made that joke too. Like that's probably what they're going to do because that's what they did on Mother's Day with Mike Brown. Yeah,
that's full circle. Mike
Full
Brown. It turns out Mike Brown and the Kings hate parents.
Here we come, guys. Here we come. Here we go. Ooh, Outcast. You know how to get me going for the Friday. Oh, boy, little cast out of here. I'm ready to go now.
Well, you better go get the door. Alexa just said someone's at your door.
No, Alexa, shut up.
He was jamming. He didn't even hear it.
Like, I don't know. I don't have anyone here that talks to me when someone's at my door.
Well, I can't open my door from my phone either.
Oh man, please, you got Kenny. There is someone at your door. Funny because we all heard it and you didn't. That makes me laugh. That makes me laugh. 1320 Kings insider James Ham with us here, creator of the Kings Beat. With us. Make sure you subscribe to the Kings Beat YouTube channel as well. Every once in a while, Ham and Sean and Brendan, they do a live show, and those are a lot of fun. You guys did a live show. I think it was last night, right?
Yeah, last night we started right at 9:00, a little, maybe a couple of minutes after 9, after the finals game. Because I had to gloat because I said Celtics in 6.
Said Warriors in 6.
Warriors in 6, and Brennan had Celtics in 7, and Sean had Warriors in 5.
He did.
Yeah.
Poor Brennan, the only one who has like a true vested interest in all of this, has to do the podcast minutes after his favorite team loses. We had Quentin Mayo on yesterday, our guy over at BetQL, BetMGM tonight. He's kind of a sneaky Washington Wizards insider, really an NBA insider. For the BetQL network, and he was on top of the Washington Wizards' desire, one of the many teams, of course, with the desire to move up to number 4. And we worked out different trade ideas for the Wizards and the Sacramento Kings that centered around, I think it was Kyle Kuzma, that number 10 pick. I think we went with Denny over Rui, and in exchange, you'd get the 4, Rashawn. And I think we threw in Justin Holiday, and that was kind of the centerpiece of that trade. It wound up, we posted the trade on YouTube. I think it was 400 or 500 votes. It was 52% to 48% no.
Yeah, I don't think that's enough. And the problem that you have is that Kuzma has 2 years left, but the second year is a player option.
Yeah, we tried to talk through that a little bit. I don't think people cared.
Yeah, it's $13 million. His player option for the second year is $13 million. There's no way he's playing for $13 million. So he's going to opt out, and then you're going to have to risk losing him. And I just don't. There's no way. Like maybe, but like Washington has a tough road to get him, because what Washington wants to do is like to be solid, to be good, and so their pick won't have as much value. So if you say, hey, we want your number 10, but we also want your first round next year, like in that pick, in that deal at this point, there's no way you're doing that deal without their 2023 pick as well. But they're still going to be they'd probably be solid because they're still going to have Bradley Beal, And I think Rashawn Holmes would be their best center. He'd slide right in there.
So in that case, it's not Rui or Denny. It's probably both of them, right?
Well, no, because I don't know that has that much value. Like if you're going to ask them for 3 forwards, I don't think that the value's there. Like either like Denny or Rui and Kyle Kuzma and the number 10, I'm going to want something else. There's going to be something else. And that something else can't just be like another forward who's unproven.
So they looking to. Woj said it. I think you said it. You said it.
Give me the loot. Give me the loot.
They want it all.
Yeah.
Brand new socks and draws. They want it all for 4. Do you think Jaden Ivey in 4 commands what the Kings are looking for? Jaden, because this still is for Jaden Ivey. Do you think he commands that?
I think he does. Like, because there's a mystique about draft picks until they're drafted. And I don't know what it is, how it holds up that way, but it's always been that way. And it's just the pick is worth so much more. And again, I think when you look at the pick being worth, like this has become a true 4-player draft. I told you guys that there's a chasm between 4 and 5. Like there's a gigantic drop off, and people can keep saying Keegan Murray, I'm fine going number 5, but I'm fine with him going number 5 or AJ Griffin or Dyson Daniels or Benedict Mathurin or name that pick, Shaden Sharp. Any of those guys could go number 5.
So
we know who's going number 4.
Then why? Because it seems like we've talked about who has and hasn't met with the Kings. It seems like Keegan has met repeatedly with the Kings.
Yeah, well, because he'd probably be on the board at number 5, and you probably already have an understanding what you can get from Detroit. Like, let's not forget that the Kings, just magically, I told you this the second they moved up. It wasn't just about getting the 4th pick. It was the 2 teams that they moved ahead of, and maybe the 3rd and the 4th team as well. But really, the 2 teams they moved ahead of in Detroit and the Pacers. Those are the 2 teams that they've been trading with the most. Like, they just got the Sabonis deal done, but they also got the Marvin Bagley deal done. Like, there is communication. They already know what could be potentially, who is off limits, who isn't, what they could get from one of those teams, what they can't. They already have a good idea. And so I think that, like, they're natural trade partners for sure. But that's also why I say, like, move down 1 spot, move down 2 spots. That's fine. Now, can you do it again? Is there another way to do it? Can you go get more players by moving down again? Because I think you are taking a huge risk moving from 4 to 5 or 4 to 6. Even if you're getting a really good player, you're still taking a huge risk that player, that Jaden Ivey is going to be a star. But if you can parlay that pick into another really, really good player or 2 really good players, all of a sudden you did like a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-1. And that's when you start to think, okay, you can turn this thing around much quicker than everyone thought.
Mike Brown's introductory press conference is, in fact, Tuesday at 11 a.m.
Yeah, I got something right.
According to
the Sacramento Kings YouTube channel. They have it set so you can be notified. Haven't emailed us to tell us, but
no, none of us.
None of us got that email. But if you've got some astute viewers over there on the YouTube channel, they alerted us that it's posted on YouTube. It's not posted anywhere else, but it's posted on YouTube. Mike Brown's introductory press conference, 11 a.m. on Tuesday.
James looking like the angry emotion. And what was that, Inside Out?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, it's not that. It's just like
James has added up here with the Sacramento Kings.
What if you don't alert your media and your YouTube channel is literally Mike Brown and Monty McNair sitting there by themselves with no one asking any questions because you didn't bring anyone in?
The good news is the Sacramento Kings listen to this show. They're hearing this now, looking around. Hey, we didn't send out the media advisory.
Wait a second.
By the end of the show, we're gonna have an email in our folder that say Mike Brown's press conference is Tuesday at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
James is so sick of all of this. James, James is about to become Utah Jazz insider. Jazz.
Yeah. It's just get on the same page. Like, it's okay that there's some rough patches here and stuff, but get on the same page, because clearly they told their own digital team that they're doing something, and then it's possible that that person just like literally didn't know what they're doing and accidentally put it out there, and like, yeah.
That's all right. Well, we all
Like you said, gotta get on the same page.
we're here to relay information. Just be on the same page. Look, if you're not on the same page today, it's fine. If you're not on the same page Tuesday, that's fine. Be on the same page on Thursday. Whatever we're doing on Thursday, let's make sure we get this right. Don't, for the love of God, don't miss. I don't even know what that means. Just don't miss.
Yeah, don't miss.
No, James is in full pissed off mode. We've lost.
No. I'm with you. Like, don't miss. Like,
No, you
that's
have
the end of the
out of your ears.
Yeah, that's the end of the story, though, right? It's like, keep talking about wanting to break your playoff streak and all that stuff. Well, if you really believe that you can break your playoff streak, 4 new players, 4 new rotational players, not 1, not 2, not 3.
That's what we're going.
Give me 4.
LeBron James Ham.
You want to prove that you're serious about it? Game on, because that's how you prove it. Because if not, this team is a long ways away. That's not easy to do. It's not easy to turn this thing around, and it's not like you cannot get this thing turned around with your draft pick. Like, and that's what people who are like, hey, stay at 4 and draft Jaden Ivey. It's like, okay. And 2 years from now, when you got to trade De'Aaron Fox and maybe you get some value for him, and you're still starting over just because you're waiting for an athlete to, become a mature player and all that stuff.
Right.
Like if you are serious about it, you signed a coach that you believed could get you there faster than the other coaches, then you got to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Go out there and walk the walk.
That's it. And what you talked about, that's like the cycle, right? You guys even go back to DeMarcus Cousins, and that's the cycle. Like the one thing that I said even before they had the number 4 pick or whatever the case may be, and people were so against it, like you built the draft, and I understand that, but the thing that people forget is the Kings always draft. Like they always draft. They don't never trade their draft pick. They draft every year except for that 1 year when Vlade gave up the pick swap or whatever the case may be. But they've never traded their draft picks for established talent. And with having Fox in going into his 5th year, I think, or 6th year, having Sabonis now,
yeah,
this is the time to trade your pick for established talent. Now is the time to do it if you're ever going to do it. And to what you're talking about, James, you're not even trading your pick to just like trade out of the draft. You're just moving back and taking a different pick and adding established talent. Like this is a perfect scenario.
I think so too. Like there just comes a point where you have to build the team. You can't just keep waiting for draft picks to materialize. And I get it that some teams it's worked out. Well, it hasn't worked out for you. Like, and it doesn't matter what year we look at, what generation of Kings we talk about. It just hasn't worked out. The last 12 years that I've covered the team, like you miss every single time. And I think the easiest way to not miss is to trade that pick for talent that's proven. But
easiest way to not miss is don't pick.
Yeah, there's a danger in it for sure, right? I totally agree that there is a huge danger in trading the pick. But you've also like again, so I think Jill just brought something up in the chatty house. Like just look at the DeMarcus Cousins pick, right? Where you ended up with the 10th pick in the draft from New Orleans, right? Mm-hmm. You took that pick and you traded for 15 and 20. And you struck out at 15 with Justin Jackson. You struck out at 20. Number 13 and 14, of course, is Donovan Mitchell, Bam Adebayo. Number 19 is John Collins. Like you miss and then like number 22 is OG Anunoby.
Mhm.
And number 27 is Kyle Kuzma. You miss like 17 times in one draft. But go back to the 10th pick. And Portland traded the 15 and 20. And they traded that pick. And they traded for that pick. And they drafted Zach Collins.
Mhm.
Like they blew that pick too. So my point is like the draft is a total crapshoot. Like we don't know. Again, I think that between 5 and 10 and between 10 and 20, there's going to be way more players between 10 and 20 who work out than between 5 and 10. That's just, it's the way that the draft works. And I know there's more numbers and stuff, but like there's potential stars hiding all over in a draft. This one is weird, but like I think at some point you do have to try to progress as a franchise and try to build a different way. And like I think the best way to do it is to move off this pick. I've been saying it for a long time, but you got to get gold. You got to get what you need to, make it, to get yourself off the schneid.
More ideal scenario. You move back and get, let's say, 2 players of certainly one's got to be a starter, and then we'll say the other one is a strong rotational player, and then in a later outside the lottery pick. Kind of sounds like Atlanta in the way I'm describing, but that's scenario 1. Scenario 2, you move up into the top 3. Which is more ideal?
Just depends on what you're trying to do.
You move to number 2.
Okay, so I'll say this. This is kind of harsh. If you had Sabonis under contract for the next 4 years instead of the next 2 years, I think moving up might be like easier to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't just cost you this year. I mean, you get a really good player in this year's draft. It costs you 2 things, though. It costs you the ability to add multiple starters, and it costs you next year's draft and the ability to trade the year after, the year after, the year after, depending on what your pick protections are. Well, the problem is you got Sabonis under contract for 2 years, and you need to make an impression. And you've done a good job of like putting a big smile on his face. You send him to New York. He comes home with the 4th pick. Again, he's superstar. Like everyone loves him. He did amazing. Even the look at Dame was like so spectacular that night. All of it doesn't matter. If he doesn't win, he won't want to be here. So I think you have to add that as an ingredient to this, that at some point you can't just keep waiting to be good. And I'm not going to cap what I think De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis can be as a combo. Like I can't, like if they're your 2 best players, I'm not ready to say that that's just an 8 seed or 6 seed, that's the highest you're going to climb. They could be incredible together and find some synergy that we saw in like the small burst, but be great together. And then if you add the right pieces, if you add really good rotational players, not marginal rotational players, really good rotational players around them, starters, high-level starters, using that number 4 pick or number 6 pick or whatever it is, like that's how you make everyone happy. You get the owner happy because you're winning. You get Sabonis happy and he's ready to stay long-term. De'Aaron Fox is happy. The fan base is happy. Everyone is happy if you do this the right way. Mm-hmm. Now, if Jaden Ivey goes on to be an all-star, but you made the playoffs 3 times in a row, boom, 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 while he's growing into something, I think people will forgive you.
I agree. I think, and I'm ducking right now. I don't know if I want to bring this subject up. I think that's the biggest thing. One of the bigger things with Luka. If Marvin would have worked out and they made the playoffs, yeah, people would have been like, you passed on Luka, but it wouldn't be as big as what it is if they were 2 times in the playoffs with Marvin Bagley averaging 17 points a game. If they were Memphis, Memphis passed, you know what I'm saying? Like if they're Atlanta, like, yeah, people talk about, oh, you passed on Luka or you traded or whatever, but Trae Young going to the Eastern Conference Finals. Trae Young back in the playoffs. So it's not as bad. And that's the same thing that I think about right here. If Jaden Ivey is what a lot of people think he might be, but you're winning and you're in the playoffs, I don't think it's going to hit you nearly as hard, if at all.
Well, and to your point, what about the Phoenix Suns who botched that pick worse than anyone and took DeAndre Ayton, which they're not even going to extend it? Like, he could just walk away. They might be able to trade him in a sign and trade, but they're getting pennies on the dollar for the number 1 pick in the draft. They could have had Luka, but you forget about all of that because they went to the NBA Finals. You forget about it. So I think this is one of those things where, like, it could be tested. The winning cures all. But I'll also keep telling people this is not a normal draft. And, like, we all fall in love with players, or we all start speculating on who a player could be. And again, put this draft class against last year's draft class and tell me, where does Jaden Ivey go in last year's draft class? 8, 9, 10? Like, we aren't talking about him being Russell Westbrook. That's the nature of the draft. The nature of it, everyone just looks at it and, like, the year that we're sitting in. But you know that Cade Cunningham is going number 1. You know that Evan Mobley's going number 2. You know that Jalen Green is either going number 2 or number 3. And then you start getting to Jabari, and you start getting to Chet, and you start getting to Paolo. Like, when Scotty Barnes, where does he fit into that? Like, Jalen Suggs, what he was thought of last year. My point is, like, are we making way too much of a big of a deal of the Kings trading the number 4 pick? It has gold value right now, but is it fool's gold? Is it real? And the fact is, we won't know for 3 years, 4 years, if it's going to be, if Jaden Ivey's going to be that good. And he could be great. Like, I'm not saying he can't be great. I'm just telling you, like, if you compare this historically to other drafts, it's not a great draft, and he might not be as like highly regarded in another draft as he is today. And so, yeah, it's just you got to look at all of the angles here. And I would say, like, if you can cash in, because there's potential to get really, really good here really quick.
I agree.
There's a lot more pressure on a 4th pick too.
Yeah.
That falls on the Kings. That falls on the pick as well. So, when you're drafted to an organization like this, one that hasn't purposely been losing, but just has been losing, there's a lot of pressure on you. Keegan Murray, going in the right direction. See things like, change the culture there. Every damn draft pick who interviews with the Sacramento Kings, Kenny says, has got to operate off of the same set of note cards. I'm going to change it. I'm going to be the one. Who said? I can't remember who said it was. The losing stops with me. I can't remember if that was Davion or Tyrese or who it was. But it's pick after pick after pick after pick. Subscribe to the Kings Beat podcast wherever you get podcasts from. Subscribe